Dobrodošli, hvala za udeležbo in obisk. Začenjamo z konferenco Ples je več kot denar, ki ga organizira Društvo Pekinpah v sodelovanju s Centrom za kreativnost. Začeli bomo z uvodnimi nagovori. Matevža Čelika, direktorja Muzeja za arhitekturo in oblikovanje, Petre Kežmar, vodje sektorja za javno diplomacijo in mednarodno sodelovanje v kulturi, in Žigo Predana, direktorja Društva Pekinpah, in kar vabim gospoda Čelika, da pove par besed.
Lepo pozdravljeni v Muzeju za arhitekturo in oblikovanje. Na nek način je danes vse ne konferenca, mi delamo ne razstave, ne delavnice, ne predavanja. En čas je, ki je zelo negotov, v katerem se o marsičem sprašujemo, izpolnjujemo razne ankete, ugotavljamo, kako bi dogodke preformatirali v nekaj drugega, tako da bi obdržali svojo publiko na vseh področjih. Tako da jaz mislim, da je ta razprava danes zelo pomembna, mislim, da bo tudi zelo zanimiva. Me veseli, da poteka tukaj na našem dvorišču in da nam tudi vreme dobro služi, tako da upam, da se boste dobro počutili tukaj pri nas. Na nek način je tudi v redu, da nas je ta zdravstvena kriza pravzaprav potisnila ven na zrak in nas malo postavlja v to neudobje, ker smo tudi prisiljeni malo bolj izkoriščati naše zunanje prostore, kjer smo lepi. Tako da sem vesel, da boste okupirali prostor gradu in tudi njegovo okolico danes. Uživajte in se še srečamo tukaj čez dan. Okay. Welcome to the Museum of Architecture and Design. This is a part of Center for Creativity project, which is a national platform for creativity, for boosting creativity in different sectors. Although the museum is dedicated only to architecture and design, we were assigned to manage this project for the government. In one way, everything today is on. This is Unconference. We do exhibitions, lectures, workshops, because it's a complicated time. And we are all trying to find our new way how to manage our cultural businesses and activities and missions in these uncertain times. In a way, it's also good that this situation placed us in an uncomfort, pushed us out of the comfort zone. And we have to think about how to do things differently. One of the things is that we have to think about how to use our outdoor spaces better, and I hope you will enjoy staying in our courtyard today, and I'm glad that you will occupy all the surroundings of the castle of Fujine as well. I hope you will enjoy it, and I wish you a pleasant day here in Mao today.
Hvala, Matevž. Petra, bi prosim nadaljevali.
Ja, lepo pozdravljeni vsi skupaj. I'll just switch to English to make sure that everybody understands. I would like to start by paying a really sincere tribute to everybody here today, both to the organizers and the participants. It's a personal and professional tribute to all those that in these really uncertain times fight for international cooperation and fight for the culture to stay really very high on the agenda. I would like to assure you that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we totally share this battle. I'm a bit reluctant to use this battle vocabulary, but it is a battle that requires, even in our case, the best of the diplomatic skills. So what makes us most busy right now is really the advocacy. Internal advocacy, interministerial advocacy with the Minister of Culture, Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Education, but also international advocacy. We really fight for the culture to stay high on the foreign policy agenda. Obviously, our segment is foreign policy. Slovenia has had this priority in culture and foreign affairs for years. Actually, already in 2008, when we first presided at the Council of European Union, we were kind of avant-garde that placed culture high on the agenda in the EU, and we are determined to do so also next year when we take the steering wheel of the European Union again. And yes, in these special times, this advocacy is even more important. We also place a very important focus on the culture and creative sector, the support of the culture and creative sector, dance being one of the branches. In 2018, we launched Creative Forum Ljubljana. This is the initiative of our ministry, there are all the ministers actually that cooperate with us in it. This year we will organize it again, and it will be one of the flagship projects also of the European Union presidency. So yes, we really count on you. And I'll be very curious also to keep in touch to see the conclusions of this debate today. And yeah, let's keep in touch. I wish you a very good conference. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opening speeches. I would like to welcome everyone here to the Pilot Unconference. You were all, I think, very, very brave to join us. I think it's incredible. It wasn't the easiest thing to do that you're all here, but somehow we managed. So welcome, and I will have a bit more explanation of the foundation of what we want to do here a bit later on, but for now, yes, thank you for coming, and thank you to everyone here and the partners that make it happen.
Okay, so besides Žiga, the managing director of Pekinpah, the conference team, part of the conference team are also Natasha Zavolovšek, the producer, who is now at the registration office. I am Nika Schwab, the coordinator, and this is Chris Torch, your host and moderator, who will now present our activities and the model which we will work on. Chris?
Do I have this one? Yes, okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Chris. Žiga and Natasha and Nika asked me to help to moderate this Unconference. And hello? Yeah. The question, of course, comes, what is an Unconference? In this case, we'll give you just some of the simple structure or rules of how the next is. And back to Žiga. Okay. Hello? Yeah? Better? Okay. So basically, the Unconference is based on a principle called the fishbowl. And this is our fishbowl, except that it won't be exactly like this. In 4 sessions with 4 topics, of which we have 4 or sometimes 5 initiators, basically around this table, but sitting in a circle, 4 or 5 people will begin talking to each other about the topic. The rest of us are on the outside, but there is 1 empty chair at the table. So when any of you have something that you want to say, you must come and take your place at the table. If all of the seats are filled, you must knock on the shoulder of someone and ask them to leave, and you take their place. In this way, there should be a constant flow of people so that you are listening to a conversation that's going on, and you intervene into the conversation when you have something to say. Is that clear? It's not very complicated, but it does allow for a real conversation to take place. It's always very difficult to work with 30, 40, 50 people and to have everyone be able to speak. So the idea here is to let 4 or 5 people get it started, and then that you begin to intervene. We have 1 hour for each of the topics. Before we do that, the first session, when we are finished with the keynote speech here, we plan to first have 4 brainstorming sessions. So we will break up into 4 very small groups out in the park out here for 1 hour to brainstorm around each one of the 4 topics. So anyone who would like to speak about co-production, anyone who would like to speak about international touring, anyone who would like to speak about shared tools, that is spaces, technical equipment, etc. And lastly, networking. These 4 themes, we will have 1 hour of a brainstorming just to frame the subjects, to get the right words, to share a language together about what we are talking about. And then we will begin the fishbowl sessions, 1 on each session, 2 today and 2 tomorrow. Finally, tomorrow afternoon at the end, we will have 2 hours for a wrap-up. But it's actually a wrap-up, but also looking forward. So from the discussions that we had in the fishbowl, we move to, so what can we do? How can we use this information? I think it's very important also to underline the region or regions that we are talking about. It's been a very special task for Pekinpah and for the organizers of this Unconference to choose people that are coming, which are sharing some of the same conditions when it comes to touring. And basically the idea, as it was being talked about, went from this idea of growing markets, you know, the capitalist idea that things must grow all the time, grow and grow. Well, we started talking about growing our own markets. What can we do to develop a market system or a movement system, a mobility system ourselves, which is not dependent on demanding from public authorities to pay for everything. I mean, yes, of course, there's always a demand for money. But to go back to what can we do ourselves? What is it possible for us to organize with the resources that we have available here? So let us stay focused on this regional reality. Next year, I know the idea is to extend it into a broader European and even global perspective. But this year, the focus is very much on Eastern and Central Europe, on the Balkans and the Baltics, on some of the experiences that we have and that you have among yourselves working in this region. So, are there any questions about the system or how we're moving forward? So, my pleasure to give the word over to Giga. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, so I will try to sketch a bit where we're coming from, what are we thinking. The initial idea of making an Unconference for dealing with questions of dense international markets came from the things which are happening in the last years in the environment, which is a bit shaping up things. There's more and more artists working in the field. There's more and more schools where these artists come from, and they're more and more educated. And on the other side, there's always the issue, or maybe the issue with the audience is becoming more of an issue. And then, of course, the digitalization, which is persistent, and maybe robotization, which is coming. So the initial idea was to bring together professionals which are working in the field on a very professional level, or very business level as well, and give them a chance to talk among each other to find the relevant topics and problems which they deal with, but at the same time also to invite the young producers, the young art professionals, the ones that want to become part of this, let's say, business. And the second one was to focus on the regions and on the local aspects here, which I think is very important. And it's, of course, it's different. It's not like everywhere is the same. There are bigger markets, there are smaller markets, there are underdeveloped, developed markets, and so And that was the initial idea. Then, of course, the lockdowns came in, which changed the main topic, basically because there was no international market anymore instantly. So all the tours were cancelled until December, or are still cancelled until December. Festivals are cancelled. All these things. So it turned a bit everything upside down. So the question was, how to realize this. Should we go for a digital version and talk about COVID, and people still stay in their little boxes of quarantine, and just we could just speak about this topic, which might be interesting, but there's a lot of things happening like this. And then we expanded the idea of what to do with the regions. And it happened to be that the specific countries of Europe were much less impacted by the virus than the others. And it happened to be the countries which we, in the end, invited. That means from the Baltics to the Central Eastern Europe to Eastern Europe to down to the Greece, so Southern Eastern Europe. And this region, which is not a region, which is more regions together, are quite distinctive, I would say. And there have been new things happening in these regions as well. And one of the things which is happening is that after the last financial crisis, which was 2010, some of the countries were much less hit also by this, and so they start to develop. So new festivals are popping up, new venues are actually happening, and I think even if we think that everything goes very slow in our regions, in fact it's quite a lot going on, and there's like a lot of art professionals very keen, very keen also in how to be resilient, how to work in difficult conditions. And that's how we combine then to invite on this Unconference, basically you, to start really focused discussion on what can we do, how can we do the growing, how can we start the ball, to roll the ball in this area. Of course, everything already exists also in this area. We do have co-productions, we do have partnerships, tours, festivals, everything like this, but I think what's the common thing is a certain, let's say, frustration of this otherness, of this idea that it's not as good as maybe some other parts of the world, and so that's kind of the decision for this. And whenever you're, when the idea of inviting other people and start to think of the cooperations, and that's the subtitle of the conference. Unconference is the strategies of cooperation. I think the three things are, and in a specific region, I think we can highlight certain problems which are happening. And one is like the problem of lack of money, let's say, for productions or for touring. One is the lack of visibility of the venues, of the festivals, of the artists, or the connection in this area of these people. And whenever you start to think about these topics, I think in art professionals, you will agree that we come to certain ways of dealing with this. And the first one would be, okay, is there a grant for this idea? Can I apply for somewhere to get money to do an idea? And which is okay and which is fine, but it's always with an end, which is like a project money which has a start and the end. And the end, when the end happens, the sustainability goes away. So the project stops, or maybe it's hard to do another one. And the second option is that, okay, we don't have any grant for the idea we want to develop, and then you start to change the cultural policy, or you try to advocate the idea. And the problem with this one is that it's even longer to achieve, of course. And the third one, which would be connected to the mapping, to the visibility, to know each other better, it would be mapping, which goes usually in the direction that you employ people who work on this, like professionals, who try to pick up the artists or the venues and map them out, or to open the portal so that people can apply themselves. They both have problems, they both are very expensive, they both have a lot of work to do, it takes a long time to do it. It's also the problem of quality if people apply themselves. But the thing is that immediately after that's released, it's outdated, and especially in the turbulent times, and especially in the regions which are not so stable financially. So I'm saying this because the idea of this Unconference is to maybe think about what's possible outside of these three things. So what is possible to do immediately, to take what we already have. So we have people who know a lot, who have knowledge. We have festivals, we have venues, we have international tours, we have artists, of course. And we have some money as well. So the question is, what can we do immediately? How can we encourage more touring opportunities for artists from this area, in this area? Can we say, okay, we try to include more artists from these fields, or we try to go to festivals to see things happening, or we try to work in co-productions for this region? But not by exchange, but by understanding what artists are developing, because we're all here in the arts anyway. And that's the question, I think. So that would be the idea or the starting point, I think. So in other words, I would say the thing is, the first question: what can we do in this region? What can we do immediately, and how to make it sustainable? So it's ongoing. It's not project-based. That's all for me for now, and I wish you good discussions, and I hope that we come to maybe some solutions. Thank you.
Okay. Maybe it'll work. Yeah, we'll stay. Okay. We're going to now break up into 4 groups, each one based on one of the 4 topics. The first one is the topic of co-production. Žiga will join this, and also the 4 people that are given in this first brainstorming session. This is Zvonimir Dobrović, Spela Trost. I'm not sure I'm saying it right. I know that these letters mean something, but I don't know what they mean. Ksenia Djurovic, yes, and Mitya Brava. Yeah. The 4 of you are given in that group. Anyone who would like to join the first brainstorming on international co-production, follow Žiga. He will be standing here. We'll walk over into the park over there. The second group is sorry, I just have to remind myself. Here it is. Yes, international touring. We call this water. Georgi Zabo, Ivana Kalch, Eva Sveshtarova, Mojca Jug, and also we have a virtual guest joining us. These 4 people, plus anyone else who would like to speak or help to frame the topic of international touring, you will follow. Sorry, who is that group? Which of us is leading that international touring? Oh, you're leading. I'm sorry. Co-production, follow Nika. International touring, follow Žiga. Okay. The third group is what we call shared tools. This is how we can share our different resources that we have. Olga, Sanya, Mojca, and Kristina will join it, the 4 people that will be the initiators in the fishbowl. And you will follow, Natasha's networking, me. You will follow me. I will be taking notes during that shared tour over to the park. And finally, the 4th group, a cultural ecosystem networking. We have Annika, Gyori Zabo, Natasha, and Grzegorz Reske, who will be joining, and anyone else who wants to join. The idea is 5, 6, 7, 8 people around the group to frame the subject, to come up with what do we mean by international touring, what do we mean by co-production, so that we are talking about the same thing. And then we'll start the fishbowls after lunch. Any questions? Okay, join Natasha, Žiga, Nika, or myself. Thank you. Oh, perfect. Yes. Could you turn on my, yeah, thank you. Okay, please, friends, colleagues, join us here for the first fishbowl. You are the fish. So let us begin. Senya? Great. It's fine. Just where you are. Okay, friends, please. No, you're not allowed to say. Yes, of course. You can do whatever you like. Olga, I should announce this, that Olga, all of the rules that all of us will be following, it's very important for you to know that Olga does not need to follow any of them. She's made that very clear for us. I'm just joking with you. Please join us. Okay. Just a very quick reminder of the format, and then I will step away. You have two microphones here, and I think it would be good if you would use the microphones so that other people could hear. Basically, I would like the conversation to start. The subject is co-production. We call it the earth from which we can make our creation. the idea is that you begin to speak a little bit, to make some of the points that you were working with during the brainstorming. And all of you, when you have something that you want to say, there is an empty chair here, so someone can just come and join the conversation to respond to one of the things that the others have said. If this chair is filled with someone who has not stood up and left again, then you have to tap on somebody's shoulder and take his place. If he refuses, we'll call the security guards. So please join the conversation. Don't be passive out there. This is not a panel discussion in front of you that you are supposed to take notes on. You should participate, but there's only room for 5 voices and there's 2 microphones. So, receive some here from the co-productions from your group, and I will just mention some of the notes here that Nika took, just to remind you of what you were speaking about. Slovenia is a small market. We need international partners. This is about co-production, huh? Secondly, what is a co-production? Is giving a venue for free already a co-production? Relations between time and space and money in terms of co-production. The obligations of co-producers, lengths of rehearsal times, etc. Examples of good practice. I think it would be great if you would come up with some examples of good practice, co-productions that really worked. It would be really good if you stayed concrete. Modal dance, exactly. But I just didn't want to start to say I think it's better than to. Problems with international cooperations. Countries have different standards, economic-wise. They have different fee. A fee for the Swiss artist is not the same as a fee for an artist from a Balkan country. And then also there's someone who has said we need new markets, South America, and more visibility for artists and producers, and more visibility for young artists and trust among long-term partners. These were some Nika brought out. However, I think you should begin exactly where you would like. And why don't you start? Grab a microphone. Remember now, please, the conversation is between you. You don't have to turn and convince anybody else. Talk with these people. You people are part of the conversation. Join it when you like. Go ahead.
Okay, so actually it's a replay from what we discussed before. Yes, I came up with also one question. Actually, we have to ask ourselves, what does co-production mean? Firstly, on national level and then on international level. As it was pointed before, is it really, what's the difference also between collaboration among partners and co-producing? Actually, co-producing, I mean, the term should be, there is like contractual obligation and agreement, at least with 2 producers, which supported the creation on financial and artistic way. And of course, there's different models. But in that case, in Slovenia, it's very common that if some independent artist comes to institution or organization who has the venue, usually what it was offered as a co-producer is just give you the venue, technical support, communication tools, etc. But in abroad, I would say it's totally different, and we are far away from doing that. I would say this is a difference because it's coming from the way of communication, culture policies, which also I mentioned before. There is one possibility, it's always like when the artists or even the organization, dance houses, venue apply for open call. There is also always applying for production or piece, and then one is post-production. Where is co-production, open call? Usually when you apply with a new project production, it's always like you need to have co-producing partners, producers, and what there you need is a written statement from producers, public institution, which are different levels. And actually it's just gain you more points to this. But what if we are thinking about the new model in a way, let's do the production one piece, one open call, another one is for co-production, which will give the artists or dance houses or dance companies more possibility to do the international touring, which also have, maybe just a few words from my point. There is, I work in Kino Šiška, and Kino Šiška is a part of European Dance House Network. It's a network of the different dance houses who has the venues to support artists, to give them residency space, to give them production costs for new production and new presentations. And it actually, when I'm knowing this our friends from abroad, they have totally different procedure or process how the artists can have the co-producers or dance company. Of course, there is a money. On a one way, they have more money in the yearly budgets. They have more international connections. They have different approaches than in like in Slovenia or in Balkan. They have like approaches. They do I can call them. There is a market for performing arts, with pitching artists, presenting artists within like some sort of international festivals, which also has the possibility that the artists can have visibility to show, to present their work, and to look for producers. Maybe just this was my first thoughts.
Someone else?
Someone else?
Someone would like to respond?
So yeah. Oh, sorry. What is there's I also one good example that we do on the national level. We do co-festival together with Kino Šiška, which is a public institution, a Nomad Dance Academy Slovenia, which is NGO, and this partnership came up like 9 years ago. It was like one of the pioneer collaboration among public institution and NGO. And it means actually co-producing, and also the name of the co-festival came up with co-producing, co-working, co-living. And we joined artistic and production forces to have this festival. That the festival is strongly, and of course it's, like in Kino Šiška, for example, we do lots of co-production with national artists. Last year, within the performing arts program, we did actually the first co-production, international co-production, without giving them in the like a written agreement what the final product actually will be, like performance or presenting. Because, and also, one point, because in this, let's say, co-production process, when we do the co-production, we have to know the partners, we have to know the producers, know the artists. And the main point is the trust among this collaboration. And also, when this long-term sustainability, it's important that if you know one artist, and you trust them that for the next project will be okay. Maybe also what I mentioned, one another thought was that we don't have to look, especially how abroad in Western European countries see that co-production is collaboration between partners, not just investing, let's say, funds, the venues, the technical, it's also the outcome of the production, which can be artistic success, but also in a way of commercial success, because we know bigger venues in abroad, in Vienna, Düsseldorf, in Berlin, in France, whatever, and they sell actually tickets really good for like 500 seats per performance. And let's say if you do like to 20 euros per ticket. So they actually have to split the outcome of the revenues of the show. So I was also looking this is like artistic collaboration and commercial in a way, economical, more appropriate word.
Ksenia, could you please take the other microphone? 'Cause it's good if you get into a dialogue as well. Do you recognize anything that he's describing of the context of a co-production from the Serbian perspective?
Yeah, so I kind of, I mean, we were talking about this a lot, kind of lamenting and crying together because of these like very different working conditions that we find ourselves in. And I just kind of want to say something. I mean, when I started thinking, still in Belgrade, about this, our conversation, I actually imagined it like having all of us here and saying something like, you know, like in a, I don't know, like a life coaching type of situation where people would like, who here hasn't co-produced a piece with at least two partners, and then like everyone would not like raise their hand or something. It would be kind of a situation where I think that all of us in the region have been co-producing, and we kind of know that this is basically one of the few ways that you can present the work that you're supporting. I mean, when I say support, I mean in the broadest kind of way, to other partners, because of the lack of the communication and the systemic support for collaboration in the region. And when saying this, I'm talking about mostly the contemporary dance scene, which is very, I mean, I'm guessing everyone knows, but still fairly underdeveloped in Serbia. And without co-producing partners, where the relationships are only built on trust and not some type of, I don't know, economic conditions or contracts, anything basically going further from presenting a work in progress that has been produced with like 1,000 euros would not be possible. So I think for us, this is something that's like I think co-productions are a reality that we can't escape because of the working conditions. And in this sense, I was, while we were talking and basically thinking up some good practice examples, mine was the one coming from Nomad Dance Academy, which is a regional network that, I mean, this is not a co-production model, but it's a collaboration model where young or younger generation artists coming from the countries that are in the network, which is basically ex-Yugoslavia plus Bulgaria. There was this situation where there was a caravan of these young people going throughout the region and staying in every particular town for a while, getting to know the local scene, getting to know the actors, and getting to know also the working conditions, because I mean, basically what we're talking about here is not something that is abstract or some like, I don't know, what values are we talking about? We're talking about working conditions for enabling people to have decent work. And when talking about this, I feel that we kind of, because we've concluded that we cannot be competitive in terms of Western Europe. This is also something that I think we're all aware of. But what we can do is work together, and in this sense, we don't have, I mean, there's no like Balkan market or Balkan region, I don't know. I mean, in itself, there's not something that is an entity when talking about dance coming from the Balkans. So I think what Nomad Dance Academy managed to do is to introduce at least these people in like super precarious conditions, to introduce them to the scene, to kind of make them visible in the wider context of the national scenes, which also in some of the countries are either non-existent or atomized or are not connected to other scenes. So I think it's fairly important for us to, I mean, as I said, we know this. This is our way of work. I feel we're not competing. I mean, and this is something that I feel is very important to say out loud. Like, I mean, if we compete, then we're losing everything. It's a lose-lose situation. So I think in co-producing, when we kind of establish these relations, because we've been talking about this idea of working with institutions, because obviously organizations have different resources or don't have any resources. So in this sense, when you go to an institution and then they kind of proclaim themselves the co-producer of your piece or claim your work in a way, I kind of feel that this creates this very vague situation where we're not talking clearly about things, but we're kind of just claiming ownership of stuff so that we can put it in a final report. So for me, I think that this needs to be clarified, like what is a co-production, what is support, what is a partnership, and how do we go from there? Because probably, I mean, at least that's the way it goes in Belgrade. It's these are very different relations because the working conditions are very different. And in the civil sector, I think that any resource needs to be obtained. All the resources need to be paid, need to exist. I mean, nothing comes from, you know, just existing. You don't have a venue, you don't have salaries, you don't have, I don't know, paid taxes or maternal leave because you're employed. So I think this is something that needs to be clear in co-producing, because I think we all want to have public-civil partnership or private civil partnership. I'm not sure how that works. It's not an amazing model, I would say, in Serbia, but I'm guessing there are good practice examples somewhere else. But I think this is also something that we need to use, like this public-civil partnership and the regional co-producing between partners who have the same values, or, I mean, when I say this, I mean the values in terms of how we work and for creating the conditions for artists to be satisfied and not constantly live in precarious conditions.
Please, there were two things I think very important that you just put on the table. The one is co-producing, but with very different conditions from the producers. How do you manage to harmonize those? And secondly, is co-production a way of avoiding competition between us? Because in fact, we share the same goals. We want to reach audiences with good contemporary dance. So obviously, we don't want to compete. Is co-production a model that protects us from this competition, or are they completely separate problems?
Hello. I'm not sure about the competition. I'm not sure. I'm not completely against competition. So, for me, it's not. The co-production is not a way to erase competition. For me, I want to be competitive, and I like it. But to talk about co-productions from where we come from as a smaller organization, I think important for us is always to ask why co-produce. If it's to raise the conditions, working conditions for the artist, then it's about finding the right partner. And we have to learn or train ourselves sometimes, not always to look up, but sometimes to look down. So there are two ideas behind this. Of course, maybe for us as a small organization, a big theater in Germany is not our right partner because it will exhaust us as an organization, or it will move us too much in a crazy, huge direction that will stop us from doing the work we were supposed to do locally or regionally. And the other thing is, I think it comes from our experience in European networks that usually the lanes of co-productions are already set. It's very difficult for, even if you're in a big network, to join bigger productions or other co-production models that are already established. So we have experience of being in bigger networks with 12 organizations, and we don't really jump on the wagon, or they're not so open to work with small organizations from Croatia or Eastern Europe. So what I mean to look, to not always look up, but look down. I think it's important when you at least work in co-productions that you try to empower other organizations who are smaller than you at some point, so that you, we are a small organization, but we are bigger than some organizations. So we try to work with other organizations that we can leave them better off after a collaboration with us. So I think that mindset is quite important for us.
So what you're putting forward is one idea, which is that to find the proper match in a co-production is a very important one. It could be a match for a larger organization or a smaller organization, but something that supplements what you can do yourself already.
Yes, because it's you know, of course, it's great to have written on paper. We are working with Kai Theater, but maybe that collaboration would destroy whatever project we have because it will just strain everything we have in that situation. And then what I started saying about raising the level of conditions for people, we have this idea, or we thought about it in our organization when we talked to our artists and friends and partners, is that it's time, space, and money. The starting positions are not the same, so we cannot compete with production houses around Europe or whatever, but even in our own context, we tend to give people little time, little space to work, you know, time in the venue, and little money. So maybe we should do less better. We should, maybe now this COVID idea is something that can push us in that direction, that maybe we don't need to do 20 productions, but we can do 5 and give people more time to work and have a more lasting impact on the work, on the artist or whatever the need is for particular project. And just to finish, it is also connected to me to the idea of post-production, because how it usually happened is that we made a show, produced it, co-produced it, and forgot about it. We didn't help people tour it or take care of this. So maybe if we didn't have 20 shows to take care of, or only 5, we could help people perform it more, or just, you know, have the whole, it's more economical in the end, I think. So this is just some thoughts that that I was having.
Spela, do you want to join in on this? One of the things you raised there about post-production, it's actually one of the points that Mitja made as well, which is about co-production leading to international touring. Can they strengthen one another? Is co-producing a way to guarantee a longer life for an artistic work in terms of economic and artistic efficiency?
I started this problem with the unfair co-productions because we were part of that, and we started with this unfair idea, and it was because the idea was from Swiss NGO to do a bigger ensemble of 12 people because of make conditions to do it, and then also to tour in four countries. And the countries were like Switzerland, Slovenia, Croatia, and Serbia. And then the first problem was because everybody could like invest with space and time, and there was a problem of money, of course. And then the Serbian producer, he said, yes, but the Serbian artists, they will be happy with like 300 euros for 6 performances in half a year or something. And then we said, okay, we cannot do this kind of co-production to have like 12 people artistically balanced, but with like from 300 for Serbian, then I don't know, 700 for Croatian, 1,200 for Slovenian, and then 2,000 for Swiss people, no? And so we said, we cannot do this, and we cannot do the music or whatever, like with this kind of unfair situation. But then we were thinking, and then we said, okay, so the Swiss they will not work for less. And then we say, but the Serbian, they don't have money to invest. The Croatian also. And then we said, okay, how we can do this now? And then all the money was from Switzerland and something from Slovenia. And then we Slovenian this was our ethical problem, no moral problem, from Slovenian part, I think, mostly. So, and then there was another proposal with less legs of this fee issue. So, and then in the end, we were like differently paid. But then everybody said, okay, let's do it, because the Serbian cannot like present this kind of music and so on, and so this is opportunity to tour and to develop and to so, and somehow this was then artistically it was very successful. Commercially it was not successful at all. But now, for example, somehow also yes, because now we will do this year a CD out of that, because we organized a performance in Slovenia, and we had a contract with RTV Slovenia, Radio Television, National Radio Television, and they lost the recording. And then I was like, and we had a contract with them for these recordings, and then they lost, and then I was like calling every day this secretary from RTV, and then in the end the director said to one guy from this like, I don't know, redactor or something, and he said, please do this with Špela, because she's every day calling our secretary, she's like out. Okay. And then they paid another performance in Slovenia, the RTV National Television, and they recorded, and now we will do like a CD. But we were just performing like 6 times, and one of composition was, the outcome was of this like unfair paid people, the composition, because they do on base of this email from the Swiss producer explaining why we are paid differently, and this was one composition on based on this email, something like that.
Špela, could you give us, and I ask all of the people here now, it's probably time for you to start breaking in here. Don't be shy. Could you give us an example of a positive co-production experience that you've had, one that actually did what we were hoping that a co-production would do, increase the artistic capacity, lengthen the life of the artistic work, increasing the amount of follow-up? Do you have a best practice example of something that worked? And I'd like all of you to think about, if you've been involved, any of you, in a co-production, to please come and offer this on the table. Špela?
If I'm sincere,
You can come back again if someone else has a...
I don't know. I think that my head is like, I'm happy with a little. So, so maybe every co-production was successful for me. But yeah, but because we could do a production and we could tour a little bit. And more than we can, because in Slovenia it's very difficult to have like 10 performances of the same performance, no? So 10 times repeat the same performance.
So the co-production allowed you to go beyond
yes.
what your local market or your national market would allow.
Yes, because normally the start of the co-production is already that everyone is obligated to present in this country the work now. So this is the starting point of a co-production when we do it. So this is one of, yeah. I don't know what is the success.
Someone else around the table? What is successful production? Olga, please, you have to come and sit down if you want to speak.
I don't want to speak, I have a question. For me?
Ask the question.
Or
What is successful production? What is successful production?
the question.
From which point of view?
Yeah, everybody.
I would say that successful co-production is the one who gave you sustainability results in a way that you want to collaborate with this dance company and the artist again, that you fit each other artistically, like the same artistic approach, like fair play fair play, which means that all partners are equal regardless how much you invest and what do you invest. And yeah, and that also, like, if you support production, that it actually follows up with the tour, that the artist can be visible elsewhere.
Best practice example, Senja?
I would just like to add on this idea of a successful co-production or production. I think it's kind of when the artists are okay with what you've managed to provide. Because, I mean, also this is something that is disregarded at some point when, when the wheels start turning, and it just kind of becomes this constant laboring over presenting, and I think we all have this imperative. I mean, whatever we do, we would like to present pieces more and to have more people see them. But for me, a very good example of good practice in co-producing is still, again, the Noma Dance Academy model, where you have different partners providing smaller amounts of money that will eventually come to, I mean, I wouldn't say that it's still enough or that it shouldn't be more, but I think that taking in account the conditions that are in their local contexts, when you make it something that is regional or let's say international, but okay, it really creates something more, where you can work with people, with more people, where you can develop your work far more or further than you thought you can with the conditions that you have, which are fairly limited in your local context. But I would say that I think in my experience with Station, it's something that really helped a lot of people and also connected a lot of people, and therefore also provided some visibility, or let's say more visibility than there would be in the beginning if it were not a co-production. So something in this sense. Everyone gives a little, and you don't have a lot, but you have something.
Sorry, I would just like to add, for coming back to the first question, why we co-produce. I think it's important, or at least again for me, just thinking about it, to step up, to raise the level of the game for people involved in the co-production. So if I am offering the same condition to the same artist for 5 years, I'm not doing my job, and the system actually doesn't work. And unfortunately, of course, we can talk about everybody's role in the ecosystem of the art landscape, but for example, in Croatia, the system doesn't work. We can only offer so much, but the system doesn't really work in terms that the institution will pick up on some artists and then raise their game further. So it can happen that we actually work with the same artists in the same sphere of support. It should not happen, but then maybe the co-production can push it outside of our playing field in a sense. And what I'm trying to do sometimes with productions or co-productions is to try to offer something that has not been offered if the person needs it. For example, a choreographer who's been doing solo or duets or trios for 5 years, maybe a step up, if they're into it, is to work with a company with 10 people. And then whatever the result is, maybe it's a great process, they learn something, they just come back to the solo because they hate. But it's something that, for me, has to be a range of experiences. And unfortunately, it also happens that some people work with the same thing for the whole of their careers, or they're suddenly 40 and they haven't had experience to really move outside of their box. So it's difficult also to talk not connected to the system where you work. Be it visual artists who can work in small galleries and never work in the Museum of Contemporary Art, because the system doesn't care for them. So it's also changing the system to do that. And to change the system is maybe not only waiting for people who run these big institutions to change, but actually to go into the big institutions, and try to change them from there. Like Oliver Frljić in Croatia became the director of the National Theatre at some point. Maybe he made some changes, he left, whatever. But it opened, you have to try to raise further the field that you work in.
So two advantages to co-producing. One, the possibility of providing better circumstances than we can do as individual producers or presenters. And secondly, the possibility of extending the distribution of the work so that you reach, quite simply, more audiences and perform more often, which is then artistically and economically cost effective. I think you want to say something.
Ja, Isto Kovač, španski borci en knap. Olga, that's in fact answer to you. A successful co-production. Went through my mind. Last year we established a regional network between the venues, 3 from Slovenia, 2 from Croatia. This year, 1 more from Croatia, one more from Italy join. Venues, production houses, and the public tender. We call each other, the network is called Pan Adria. We open a public tender and select artistic work. Every one of partners of venues participates some money into the production and some money into the post-production, which means that the selected work is produced, co-produced with money, and also has a guarantee that it will tour over these stages. Maybe not all stages, but it happened that all stages were, of course, interested in the work. We select the work, and that's a very successful story from the last year. Artists were happy. We were glad with the result, with the touring. And this year, even 2 more partners joined, 1 from Italy, 1 from Croatia. And I think this kind of regional working within also the reachability by transport, like 2-3 hours between the cities, it's quite essential. So it means also that the artist can go on tour without having this gap of traveling and so on. And so far it works very well, and in the future we'll see if this model works well. We'll try to go for international funds and so on, make it larger, maybe invite 3-5 artists per year. For now we can do only 1.
Excuse me, could I just follow up on that? Sorry. How did you deal with the differences in terms of what the partners could provide? That is, if one partner says, I have 1,000...
Equal, everyone the same.
Everyone the same. So there were no differences. So
No,
even a richer organization put in the same amount of money as the poor one.
But they are very decent. Not decent, sorry, not decent. Humble.
Humble, yes.
Well, we participate, everyone, I can say, everyone participates 1,000 in the production and then 1,000 in the post-production. Then the producer gets 2,000 from each partner, which for this it's obliged to perform. And then it's on them how to deal with this with the internal budget. So if we will be more, and if you rise a little bit, we can come up to maybe 20,000, 25,000 without a big effort.
Someone else, please, don't be afraid to jump in.
Actually, I just would like to address that question. I would like to address that question to you guys.
Okay, I think you're going to need a microphone. Why don't you come and sit down and just use the microphone? You can go back out again. It's okay.
It's not necessary. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah? It's just about sustainability. How do you address sustainability into these productions in like the broader term of sustainability? That's what
Okay, I mean, I feel this question super personally because we're dealing with this in the festival that I'm working at. So it's a fairly large-scale festival, and last year we started talking about climate crisis last year, and it was like our whole team was kind of educated by someone who is very involved in many issues that are affecting the climate crisis. So we've only managed this year to have, because, so for example, like one of the impacts that we think is amazing as an institution, as a public institution that has a fairly stable budget in the context that I'm coming from Serbia, a super big thing is that we're not going to have a catalog anymore, because this is the 54th edition of the festival this year, and it was always like a book, like a proper, you know, like proper spending of all resources possible to produce material that is a lot. So when we started talking about this, like kind of trying to see how people would react to this, this was a scandal. Like people were properly, like from the media, we were talking about this kind of, so how do you feel about making the catalog a QR code kind of card? It was like, but how are we going to do this? And it's like what we're trying to do right now is to at least like ask people if they would consider to travel by train rather than by plane. And I mean, in this situation, like in the post-pandemic situation, which is also not a post-pandemic situation, to be honest, like it's very unstable, and all like even the small changes that we're trying to do are kind of becoming big changes. And like what is most logical for me, I don't know, is to kind of educate the people who are working at the team, in the team, and also try to implement these changes in the way we work, firstly. And not, I mean, because we can all do it declaratively. We can all say, so yeah, we're having an issue and we're going to use recycled paper and these things. But I think that if we don't kind of, I mean, if we just show it and not do it, I don't think it's very relevant, actually. And I think sustainability in itself is something that I personally feel is very much an illusion, like safety and many other things. But I think that what we need to, I don't know, go for, let's say, in a political sense, is, I don't know, if we do something together and if we pledge to be better, I think maybe we can do better. I'm not sure. But in the sense of being aware of things and educating yourself, I think it's kind of maybe the first step, which is, to be honest, far too late in 2020. But I think coming from a context which doesn't recycle, I mean, there's no like public recycling, I think it's, you know, like a beginning of an issue to be raised at a certain point. But I think that as festivals, the bigger we are, the bigger impact we have. And in this sense, I feel that maybe humility is also something that we need to, I don't know, have as a value in the way we work.
So you're suggesting that co-producing is not just effective in terms of providing more resources for the artists or for their working conditions, but also as a political concept, that we can co-produce together in order to strengthen, for example, environmental questions or accessibility questions or whatever. That is, you can make a consortium to co-produce because of shared values, not just because of a shared artistic project. Is that right? Do the others of you agree? Do the others agree that co-production is also a kind of value system and not just an economic efficiency? Psychological. Any examples of that? Can someone give us an example of this? I mean, you mentioned one around it now. I'm going to jump in. I'm sorry. I'm trying to moderate from the outside, but then when I want to say something. just, I can give one example, for example, and that is the project that we did for over a period of 8 years called Corners, together with co-producers both from here but from literally all over Europe, where basically it was about co-producing, but it wasn't the specific artistic work, it was the value system that we decided to agree on, that we wanted to work with communities, that we wanted to work with participatory art, and producing together with, co-creating together with the people in the and when we had shared these values, the artistic work came as a natural follow-up to that, rather than starting with, we want to make this production of Hamlet, and then what are the values that came later. We started with the values. So my question, I guess, to all of you is, have you ever started a co-production based on a value idea rather than an artist's choice or an artistic vision?
I mean, I can say this for the Nomad Dance Academy platform. I mean, everyone kind of shares this idea of doing something together and making it far better than competing with one another. And I think that this type of political position kind of makes the whole network work. Okay. In a very different way, because it's basically the idea of the network is not putting yourself first, and that's insane. I mean, especially in these conditions, in these extremely precarious, poor conditions where you have to fight, I mean, for everything. And I'm talking about all of the segments of the sociocultural cycle. Like, I'm talking about education and production and animation and anything. I mean, and not putting yourself first and not going by your self-interest into any kind of venture. I mean, if it's a conference or an advocacy event or an advocacy process, I mean, this is something, I don't know, for me, this is the most valuable thing that comes out of it, because what you also do is, I mean, you're living your politics and you're working in your politics. It's not something that you're saying that, I don't know, we value this, 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 and this, and it's kind of, we base our work, but you put it in your work, like it's implemented in the way that the network functions. So I think it's, I mean, for me, I would say that this is an amazing example.
I want to get back to what you said about that you love competition, because I think I understand what you mean, but could you clarify that? Because the reality is that a co-production is in somehow not endangering competition, but it might be trying to avoid, let's say, the negative aspects of competition. Do you find that co-production somehow works against your idea that competition is healthy for artistic development?
I mean, the production and competition, I never put it together like we are thinking now. But when I said about I like competition, I like to have, in my view, ideas that are better than others, you know, and I like to write projects better than other people to get the grants, and I like to work with artists that nobody else saw, or find people, you know, and why is okay, we don't have a venue, we don't have a lot of money, but the idea is something that can bridge the shitty situation that we are in. So in that sense, the measurement of success is different. I don't measure then with the number of people we work with or number of tours, you know, but it's something that while we can do what we want to do and the ideas that we have, we are happy. But if we, so it's a different competition. I cannot compete with any national theater, and we are a biggest independent art organization in Croatia, but compared to any organization in Germany, we are smaller than small. You know, but if we have an idea, then it doesn't matter the budget or whatever. So I started the Queer Festival in Croatia 20 years ago. Before, queer festivals happened all over Europe. So that was something that put us on the map. It was not the budget, certainly. It was not the situation, because everybody was against anything queer. But it was the idea. You know, so these kinds of things is what made the difference. So, yes, I like being competitive. And I like the fact that we had a queer festival before others, in a sense.
I just want to say that we have about maximum 10 minutes more. So please, if any of you want to do say something around co-production, please jump in. I'm gonna leave the chair free again.
I would
Spela?
like just to jump to this value because we do have one project that is more social project than the artistic, but also artistic somehow because the artists are doing this project, and it's every year. It's on 1 year it's health, for example, health institutions. Then another year is work institution, then education institution, and we are doing with people in the, for example, in psychiatrical hospital, with them, for them. And we don't present this to the public outside the institution, just if somebody wants to join us to see what, but the performers are them and for them, for the people in this institution, for example. And we did it like this mental disease people, and then with altered people in the homes, and with independent of toxic, no, every kind of dependency, and yeah. And this is going for 4 years, and now we are the 30 years of doing this. And we are just, if they allowed us, we are just recording because of the Ministry of Culture, because they are giving us money, so that we have some trace of this. But we don't do the public outside this of this institution. We once a year maybe we do with some of them. We invited them, but there is more performance on this team.
Okay, so what I'm getting from this now is that one, co-production can be used as a tool not only for artistic development but also for value development. Number two, that co-production does not mean that you are eliminating the healthy artistic competition, but that you are simply strengthening the possibility of people competing on equal circumstances and having an opportunity to do their work. And lastly, and I think your examples of the nomad example is that co-producing has to be built somehow in some kind of networking situation, that we need to work kind of regularly with one another. If you're just doing it as a one-off, the three of us get together, throw in some money, make a production, and then we never talk to each other again, then the co-producing is not leading us anywhere. It's just a slightly more expensive production that's done. So that I think we will connect it to the, when we do the fishbowl around networking, what the connection is between networking and co-production. Because back to one of the first words used, trust. How do we build trust? There's still some time for anyone else to join. Please come, Dragana. Have a seat.
I take some time. Thank you. Because Nomad Dance Academy was kind of invited to say something. I'm Dragana, and I'm one of the Nomad Dance Academy. And thank you for these nice words, and thank you for organizing this beautiful place. What I wanted to say, for me, like, maybe I missed the beginning, so I'm sorry I didn't catch the idea about the co-production, but for me, I think it has to do a lot with language, like how we put things, how we put words to the table, how we operate with words. So you say you're a young artist or a young producer, and you come and you say, oh, co-production, I know what it means. So somehow, how can you, for every new situation, for every authentic situation, build what it means for you, no? But I wanted to say something, in fact, to Xenia. Hi, Xenia. Because I really disagree that altruism can come before interest, before one's own interest. I think it would be also unnatural or not, also not productive long term. So I think maybe we can talk about, and also Bifo, for example, whom I love very much, he speaks about that altruism is not, or solidarity is not some kind of blind altruism that you can just, give yourself completely to the other and so on and lose yourself in this process. But how can I, for example, enjoy my own presence in your, like in the closeness of your eyes, in the closeness of your presence, and so on. So maybe it's good to make distinction between two kinds of interests. No, there is a private interest. So we live in a time of neoliberal capitalism, and we are all living in it. Whether we are resisting it or accepting it, we are all living there now. So I think there is a big difference between private interest, which is the kind of, and I will try to be very kind of like very clear. Private interest, which is me having my yacht, my kids having their own yachts, you know, all of us studying in different great universities in the world and so on. And there is a personal interest, which is something that makes us what we are, no? Like a personal kind of vertical that makes our own system of values. So I think if we distinguish these two, then we can say that personal interest can be somehow good, but as long as we emancipate it, as long as we inform others, influence or infect, if you want, others, or make it bigger, no? Make it not only becoming private. So, yeah, so I just had this thought, because I think it's impossible to work only out of the position of the other. So what do you need? What do you need, no? But how can we somehow put all these personal interests together and not only find minimal common denominator, but find maximum productive differences among us, no, and include them. That's.
Please, Georgi, take someone's place. Okay,
just came into my mind in the last few minutes, and giving a positive example, and maybe we could learn it, we can use it. And it's, we have an artist, Korne Mudruzo, maybe you heard about him. He's actually an actor, but he slowly became a film director, and his practice was running parallel. You know, as a young cinema maker, and then theater makers with krepitev company. And then he made quite good, interesting, very striking pieces. And then finally we had to realize that he took over, or he took over that kind of mentality, what he learned in the film sector, into the theater sector. So finally, he made huge productions, and he was able to raise money easily, much easily than the theater makers. So I remember, so I was all the time amazed. Of course, we stepped into this process, and anyway, we suggested some names, some festivals, and so on and so on, and he had a team. And productions, he raised 150,000 euros. And his piece is touring more than 3 years, for example. So I guess if we want to learn somehow, we should talk with the film directors. How to, because that's so international in the first moment. The theater world is very much local, which is okay. I'm not against it, but to learn something, it's maybe in the future, it's better to invite young film directors who have already international experiences and talk to them and bring together the, but one important, ego is very important. So ego must be behind the directors. So that's what I wanted to. But how did he do it? I mean, did he apply for the cinema? No. He went to festival by festival, you know. So he was. Yeah, so finally Wiener Festival, and you know, so what we know. So anyway, he has a very strong vision. And his style is quite unique. I love the last one. You know, in the last piece, there's a house. We have to build it 24 hours. And the house makes a full turn. And it's all about flat trafficking. You know, it's a very social issue all the time. So, and he would deal with the prostitutes and so on and so on. And now he was in Triennale. He's invited again to do something for Triennale. He was invited to Sydney without any public support, or very tiny. So he's doing real fundraising, the sense of fundraising like the film sector can do, you know. So, and he sometimes combined with the film sector's funding, that's true, but international. And it's very typical that in the last, let's say, 4 or 5 years since we have this fucking government, he doesn't get any support, but he doesn't want to make a peace in Hungary now. So it's interesting. And the other one is creative director, Arpad Chilling. He left Hungary totally, so he doesn't work anymore. He raised the money different way anyway. But I guess if we want to step ahead, we have to see who are successful, as you wanted to underline it, and bring into the community and share among them. And because that's the way how to escape.
Okay. Thank you, Georgi. Excellent proposal here for your networks or your co-producing thing is to turn to the film sector, especially the independent film sector, to understand how they work, because they work in very special ways. And I've worked with small producing film producers who don't have any money at all, really. But by managing international co-production, getting some money from film funds from here and from different countries, they have managed to make full-length feature films under reasonable conditions. And I think that this is something that we can learn from. So it's an excellent proposal.
So I would like to underline that what I learned, the film sector is less influenced by politics, and the theater, yes. And that's a strong distinction.
That's a very interesting thought, and it's one of the problems with localism is, of course, we're based in language, especially in the theater, and it's one of the things that dance actually can go beyond. Dance is probably closer to the film world in that meaning of it being universally distributable, whereas theater made in the Hungarian language can be seen by Hungarians, potentially in some touring situations. Okay, it's lunchtime. It's time for us to eat. I would encourage you when we go into the next fishbowl, which is on the subject of international touring, it will certainly touch on this. Please, dare to jump in like Dragana Nistok and Georgi did. It's good to get some new voices in here to change the conversation. Thank you very much.
So for the lunch, we are going here out, and then on the right. Yeah, you follow me. It's near the river. It's nice.
Okay, let's get started. We're going into the second fishbowl. I think that you started to get the feeling of it before. Jump in quickly. Short statements, I think, by people, so that it becomes a conversation as much as you can. The topic is international touring. There are some connections to the co-production question, but not only. I'm just going to throw out some words here that the group that brainstormed around international touring said, and just to see if any of it touches on things that you have thought about or concerned. Lack of resources for tours, solidarity, partners, not knowing the scene. This is a complex thing. If you want to tour in a country or in a region that you don't know how it works, then you're really dependent on people there helping you out and functioning. Underdeveloped is neglected. I think that this is based on the idea that those things which are established become even more established. That is, once your foot is in the door, you can tour for more until suddenly you can't any longer. But it's very difficult to break into that circuit. There were some questions here about the region. Let us try to also keep focus on our regional perspective, because we do have some common experiences, but also there are some differences between our different countries and our different regions. So, who would like to start? Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. Just to get us started.
Yeah, sure.
Jump
Yeah.
in wherever you like, people.
Hi, I'm Ivana Kalc from Croatia. So basically, we brainstormed a bit, and yeah, you kind of triggered all the right spots for us with your short introduction. There was this question about getting your foot through the door. So it means once you get connections or once you get to know people, then you have more opportunities. But the point is how to reach to that point, how to come to that point. Also, because then you always stay in this, if you're coming from underdeveloped region or from a context which is not very established in the international dance scene or quite known, it's very hard also to break out from this. And it's also very hard, for example, I am curating a festival in Rijeka, Periscope, and it's very difficult if you don't have the funds to go and watch the work live. So you basically then are destined or doomed to get applications over the video and to watch performances from the video, which work kind of differently than when you see things live. And also, when you have financial resources, you can allow yourself to really go meet people and also find maybe common ground for future endeavors or future projects or future collaborations, which if you don't have this possibility to go out, to mingle, to get to know people, then also you have diminished these possibilities for the future development of your organization or your festival or whatever. So, and also one of the point is that we have really big difference in understanding from the point of artist what successful touring means, and also from the point of producer what successful touring means. And also we are here now gathered from this kind of region, Eastern, Southeast Europe, but we all have all these quite good examples from, I don't know, France, Belgium, where the touring systems work quite good. Yeah. So I come from Croatia, where within our country, touring system is very bad. So even if you're a Croatian artist and you want to tour your own work in your own country, is very difficult, let alone to spread outside, to go somewhere else. While if you watch, for example, contemporary dance scene in France, they can easily shut down all the borders and they will still have enough, ground to play on it. Yeah, to go on tours, because they have a really good developed system of touring, of dance centers, of financing dancers, young choreographers, old emerging choreographers, established ones. They have really good, I mean, this is what you see when you invest into something, then you also get results out. So then we also always kind of get into this question of sustainability. Where do we get the money from? How do we how do you say this, justify the money that we get? So if you get the money and you don't tour enough, then you don't get it second time, or if you are touring, then you get it more, but somebody else doesn't get it. So it's kind of it's difficult to balance this, a lot of these questions. Yeah. So I don't know what to say more else. Jump in.
Yeah. Hi. Hello. Maybe this one. Yeah, hello, I'm Iva Sveštarova from Sofia. To this I would like to add that we talk quite a lot also about the difficulties to bring performances from the region. So from the position, I'm talking from the position of co-curator, and this is what we experience, that there is no enough sources. For us, it's much easier way to bring performance from Germany or France, because there are many funds that are working and focus on this, to have touring and these productions to be visible more and more, but this is not the case for the region. So this is one also big problem that we put it on our brainstorming. And the other thing is that in general there is lack of visibility of the artists and the activities that are done in the region. So we still miss information enough what's going on, and this also is another obstacle of impossibility really to have a very fruitful exchange.
Hi, so I have been dealing with this issue for a very long time, and so if I want to structure the problems, there is one thing which we call export. If you speak about export, I'm sorry, I'm economist basically. I use these terms, but anyway, in a very elegant way. So anyway, so we can say that the Western presenters, not the market, and let's say the other one is the regional. That's a very interesting issue because it needs two different, we are here, behavior. So if you want to help the artist to... No, you should talk. I will. I'm sorry. So anyway, so in that case, our practice is that all productions, what we co-produce or co-fund, I would say that much more co-fund, so they have to find their own way to get abroad. Of course, we try to create a very effective environment around them because we do platform, we do all kinds of stuff, we communicate with many venues, festivals, and so on, and so on. We try to help them, but they have to find their own path to the West. That's very important. So they are absolute independent from us. They can use our label and so on, and so we support them somehow. But in the region, it's a new issue for me. I try to work much more. To invite, for example, companies from our region is very difficult because, as you said, there's not so much interest. And now I slowly start to present somehow, but with Hungarians, which means, for example, I will do double bill program, half Hungarian, half from the region. I will see how it will work. If I invite a company from the region, very small amount of, very small public comes to Truffaut. That's my experience. Why is it behind? I guess this is a question of the national image. So what, for example, very interesting to me, Britain had a very strong image till 2005. British Council stepped down. They don't present anymore. And now if I invite a British company, there's no public almost. If I do with the French, because the French is not active anymore, much less public. So I guess if we want to have an extensive export of our productions, it's very important what kind of image your state or our ministry could build behind. So that's my experience at the moment that I want to say.
Let's give the microphone to Moitza. Can I get a question? To get me in. First of all, my name is Moitza Juk. I work in Bunker and Sara Elektrana, and I am very sorry that I'm late. I started too late, and there was a lot of traffic on the road, but that's no excuse. It's just, yeah. Okay, sorry.
I'll just grab this so people can hear me. Hello? Yeah. Basically, you're having a conversation together, and we're talking about the obstacles, the challenges, and the possibilities of developing international touring, and especially from a regional perspective. So what blocks us? What gets us? What makes it difficult? And what could we do? And let's keep that concentration throughout the rest of today and tomorrow. What can we really do with the resources that we have at hand? Let's not talk about how we could change the whole cultural policy of our country or whatever, but what can we do as a informal alliance of people in order to improve the possibility for artists to have their work seen in other contexts than their own local context? Is there any way, anything that we can do about it, and what obstacles and what opportunities do you see?
Oh, a lot. I think I was supposed to be in the morning session as well, but then we talked with, but I told Giga that I'm not coming in the morning. I don't, you know probably about Bunker, so I'll not talk about that, but Bunker is a production house, but not a big production house in the sense of many productions that we are trying to tour around the world and Europe and where else. So maybe I can talk a little, like, we are somebody who is receiving companies, who is taking somebody to come to our venue. We are not the best partner for like if you have a tour, it's really nice to work with the venue who has program all year around. Like basically Bunker can offer international people coming and presenting only in August in the frame of the festival. That's our reality. For us, on the other side, being a production who produced, for many years produced a big company, Betontanz, but that I was not so much involved in Bunker at that time, but as I understood that years before, like let's say maybe 20 years ago, it was much easier to have that kind of tours as well, and the region was interesting. At least this is how was happening with Betontanz. Now now what we are producing, and this is like the most experiences we have going out and touring is with Beton Ltd, something that came out of Betontanz. But I have no, I don't know, I have no, we are all trying with this kind of like organizing, I don't know if we are too expensive or people don't know about us, why we cannot enter this like huge tour system. I think it has to do because of the way we are financed here as well. And another thing is that like, the understanding of international touring for some funders is probably easier if you have very well developed national touring network, because of like the system, the way it works, which here does not exist at all. Like on this micro level, I know Slovenia is very small, but there are good examples in other countries that are small as well, that they're able to have very good national touring network. I don't know what you talked about, what are your ideas. I don't know how to, I have no idea at this point how to improve that. It's not working well for us. We are very rarely to organize a tour. Like what we were able to do recently was go to New York for a couple of performances, but that means we worked on it like for 2 years probably to be able to get there.
What can you, if I can ask you a question just to keep you going, what can you, what can you do when you co-produce a performance at Bunker? What can you do to get it out? That is there any way that this informal network or other informal networks or alliances that could make it possible so that when you produce something that it actually has a life that's longer than performing at Bunker?
No, that's the perfect, that's the ideal scenario if you get to do that. But I think sometimes that we maybe don't go in this, I think the risk of this kind of international co-productions is as well, okay, you have to believe in artists because you never know what the outcome's gonna be, and then you take some decisions that you're gonna have the company and maybe it doesn't fit in your program at that point that it happens. I think a lot of, I don't know if that's a good or bad way, but a lot of touring that happens because of the personal relations that I or my colleagues have with other colleagues. Like I know you, and it's easier for me to call you and say, we would like to come to Trafo, can we come, what's the conditions, and so on. I think it's a lot of this kind of, as well, the connections on the personal level get you far as well. But this is not a system. This is good in some point, but I don't know, we can't have just that the only system that we know each other now and we exchange.
Okay, so there has to be an alternative to the informality of the network. That is, we know each other. Georgi, how do you follow up that? Because a lot of people take contact with you. They want to tour in Budapest. If you're a dance company, the first thing you do is call Trafo.
Yeah, which is new in my activity in the last 2 years. I tried to connect our presentation to other regional cities, Zagreb, Belgrade, Bratislava, Ljubljana. But those are, I would say, that contemporary mainstream, mostly, not everybody. And I tried to pull in some cities from the countryside, very hard in Hungary because we have a repertory theater system. I guess in the future, if we want to see real productions, we have to collaborate more and more. I give you some examples why. I don't know, maybe you saw the newsletter of VTI in November when they made a map of Europe. Did you see the train map? It's very shocking. Which ones? Which was that? They draw the map. How can you get? How far can you get from Brussels to other points of Europe within 12 hours? So it means it did not include Edinburgh, if I remember well, and it included so far to the east Berlin, and Rome was not on the map, and Vienna. The other things you have to think out over is Jerome Bell sent a message. They don't want to use aeroplane anymore. We got also the news, that information from the circus company XY, do you know? Very good, new circus company. They don't want to use anymore aeroplane. And then later on we got a message from, maybe from Sofia, that Jerome Bell would like to come to Sofia by train, but he needs more venues. So it means if we want to get to the map, we must collaborate. That's true. We are in a vulnerable situation because the development of the train system is not in our hand. So we are in a backward situation. So what if we want to get on the map, the region, I'm economist, I have to say that that's my point of view, we have to develop ourselves. It means we have to get to know each other, we have to map up the region, we have to know who wants what, and so on and so on. This is one way, but react now.
Yes, we have to collaborate. Yeah, it's working. Yeah, definitely we have to find new ways of collaborating between us. But immediately I would like to put attention of these new restrictions from some companies or artists. I understand the position behind that they don't want to travel, but then we are not obligated to make tours. So I mean, it's very tricky, because if you want to invite an artist, then you have to make a big tour for this artist, and then it's shifting already the point. And I put a bit attention to this. I found it a little bit problematic of these very strong restrictions, because it's always possible to find another way and to be done. Otherwise, about collaboration, I would like to give example with the Nomad Dance Academy. I think through the years we find a way how to establish a network that can spread information, visibility, and also give possibilities to follow artists. That I think this is very important. When you want to invite an artist, you need to know the work of this artist and to know what's the context from where the artist is coming. So it's something that is not only collaboration about sharing capacities, but also about collaboration of sharing information is super, super important.
Several things have come up in this, just to try to bring back, to make sure we put out. One of them, the environmental impact of international touring. There are many of us that are concerned about this, and we have to find some kind of solution, so that when Jerome Bell says, I don't want to travel except by train, then there has to be a solution if we want those kinds of artists. And in fact, more and more artists are going to start making those kinds of choices. So we have to deal with it. So the question is, there are one way, you mentioned one, Nomad, which is a kind of informal platform of exchange and experience. Then there is what could be called a circuit, where actually real presenters, whether it's Bunker or whatever, but people that actually have a regular programming, that they make a circuit and that they come to agreement that they will share 5 productions on tour, not as co-productions, but just as touring, 5 a year or a certain number, that there would be this kind of regional touring circuit. They are on 2 different levels, because the one is informal and based on friendship and on aesthetic relations. The other is based on business, on the fact that we want Jerome Bell, and the only way we can do it is if he has 5 gigs in the same region in the same time. I just bring that up, and then I'm going to give the word here to Georgi directly. But I want, if there are any artists out here who are working and who are concerned about touring, please jump in and take the empty seat here, and jump, because I think I would like to hear the perspective of the artists as well. What your frustrations and your concerns about how you could be distributed in a better way. Go ahead, Georgi.
Just very briefly, so in case of dance, we are trying to somehow to channel the productions into the bigger distribution systems like aerowaves and so on and so on. We are through the networks, European networks, that we are trying to do. But it's done by the workshop foundations and Shinar, so other organizations who are really much more production houses or workshop houses, you know. So it's a kind of collaboration. But for us, it's in the structure is very important, the platform, what we do. And we are trying to develop it, change it every second year, because it's biannual. And what we learned, and this was the first time, it was very interesting. It was the first time when some productions were invited who were not in the program. And what we learned also, that the younger generation, it's also like education, it's much more easier, they communicate than the first generation. Because for them to speak English and to sit down with the people, you know, and just to talk, it's much easier. So it's a very different mentality what we can learn, but it's important that that school, which closed down now, was so international, because we co-funded that school, and they had many international teachers and so on and so on, so they learned the language. But jumping to the West, the most touchy question, and I have to tell you, it's very difficult to get ahead, and I don't know how to discuss it with them, because then whenever I brought it up, they immediately shut up everything. And I try to talk about what is diversity. Because what I learned, diversity in the West, it has a different meaning that we have. If I invite a French, a German, a Belgian company, I guess this is real diversity. But there, what I can learn, that diversity means they want to provide productions only for the almost only for the professionals or the diaspora who lives there. It's very different. So I just explained when we were talking this morning. I attended in Brussels, Carbonarium theater performance in National. And it was subtitled. There were maybe 600 people. And the public started to laugh, you know, and I don't know why, but when the subtitles appeared, I laughed too. But we were maybe 15 people who laughed. And I learned that. So the public was Romanian. So this is interesting, and that was the moment when I started to think, what does it diversity? Whenever I go to a movie, I can see diversity. But diversity has probably 2 meanings. Well, the different, let's say, the diaspora in the city, it's a different public. If they come here, it's our public. You mean, do you understand what I'm saying? No?
I do.
Okay. So I guess, and when you look the program, they say Romanian, Bulgarian, whatever. But those artists, most of them live in the West, you know? And that's what we call brain drain. And that's a question, and we will talk maybe tomorrow, the ecosystem. So how can we use our ecosystem to stop this? Anyway, it's an interesting question.
This has a lot to do with the value system of the presenters when you use this word diversity. So for example, I was also shocked often when we made presentations of what I thought was a very important part of the world to show, whether it's Albania or the Balkans during a certain period of time or whatever. And we say this is very important for the audience to come in contact with this, but the audience doesn't know that it's important for them to come in contact with that. They have not adopted this. This is a political idea that I, as a presenter, have from above, but the audience actually wants to see local comedy in their own language. I'm not sure that that's all audience. So I would like to ask the question to all of you, but also to any of you, in terms of international touring. The audience, how do they play into it? What is the motivation of somebody wanting to tour internationally? If you could survive by only performing in Slovenia, and that would be enough money, and you didn't need the thing, would you anyway want to tour internationally? And if you would, why? And secondly, in terms of presenters, or those who have venues or festivals, if you could make a festival only with your local, would you have a bigger audience or would you have a smaller audience? That is, how much is the international an idea and how much of it is actually a necessity for the artist? Ksenia.
I think I can answer from both sides, because for many years I'm still performing, but I was performing in, I don't know, many festivals, at least 120, for example. And I want to just congratulate all of you that are persisting and keeping your festivals alive, because I know from my own experience of touring a lot in the 90s that there were many more festivals than now. You know, I think there should be a research done about that, but I'm certain that this is the case. From some of the festivals that I have been to and that are still surviving, one is Sibiu Festival and it's thriving, and then we have Edinburgh Festival and so on. But many are just diminished, they vanished from the scene. From this great experience, I think, of touring is that each time your performance goes to a different environment and to a different place, it gets another layer. It gets another reading of the piece. And what happens is that it builds into your piece, in a way. I don't know, it's just some knowledge that you as a performer get from performing in another completely, maybe even in another language, or if it's a body language, it's a different code, and they're reading it, and it just gets so much more profound, in a way, the work that you're doing, and it enriches the work. Also, what I can say, it is not always the money, not the financial situation. The human aspect of a festival is the most important. There were festivals where we were underpaid or almost not paid at all, that really had this human dimension and this meeting place where artists could meet, exchange, learn from each other. And that was the most valuable. And there were festivals that gave huge fees and were really prestigious, and that you felt like shit. I'm sorry to say this, but it's true. You know, you just felt you're used. You just come there, you perform, and you leave. And nobody even says goodbye, you know. Just as nobody said welcome. They just said, this is your hotel key, you know. And from this experience, I'm now curator, and I'm invited to select a festival called Infant, International Festival of New and Alternative Theater in Novi Sad. And of course, I can't discuss about the festival this year because it's completely catastrophic, and you know, so just a few performances that are only from Serbia. It completely changed. I made a selection of an international festival. Now, because of the finances and of the situation, it's changed. But what is the most important is that even though it's a small festival, it is so important for the community of Novi Sad, you know, and everybody should be really conscious what an impact these kinds of festivals have on the whole environment, on the cultural scene. Not only young artists, but it's really about building and working on the cultural climate of a place.
So The interesting thing that you bring up here, and I could ask all of you, just think about it for a moment. What is the most important motivation for wanting our work to tour internationally? I give you only two choices. You can lift your hand on one or the other. One, for personal development of your own artistic work, that is to meet a new audience, to be tested, to be benchmarked, to have this, as you say, different reactions. Secondly, to quite simply subsidize your work, to make money, because the market that we have locally is too small to keep us going. So we have to tour to make money. So there is a financial motivation and there is an artistic motivation, or artistic development motivation. If I ask you here just, which motivation is most important, artistic development or economic? Artistic development, raise your hand. Economic development, economic support, raise your hand. Okay, obviously it's both. Obviously it's both. But which one is most important, or how to balance between those two? Because the reality is also, if we have a successful performance that is invited, the places we are best paid are not necessarily the places where the audience is the most interesting. Go ahead, Moitza.
So it's up to the artist at what point they are in their life and with that piece, and they can choose. This is the best. Sometimes you go and you are paid very well, and then because you were paid here so very well, you can do 2 festivals somewhere else where you have to lower your fee, and there are other pluses that you mentioned before. We are just planning to do the festival at the end of August now, but every day we have to change the concept and the idea of the obvious reasons. And of course it came, we are called International Festival, so we really try to keep, because of all of the things that are around, try to keep this international dimension. But again, at one point we talked about just being much more local, presenting artists that are active here in Slovenia, in Ljubljana, or in the very close region, but even we don't know if we'll be able to get them or not. I think there is something beautiful what happens to Slovene, to national productions, when they are invited to the local festival, which happens in your town or in your country. At least this is experience from Ladi Levi, that those performances, even many people seen them, they had premiere, maybe they're 2 years old, but there is something very, very special that happens to them at that point when they are included in this mix of your friends watching you, international people watching you, other colleagues from international world. It's something really nice, but I don't think, I wouldn't be interested, of course, if the circumstances don't allow it, you do just with what you have at this point right here now. But I think that exactly the mixture of international, local, national, whatever, it's the thing that makes it interesting for everybody.
So I think you've put your term on the table, interlocal, because you have both a need for a local base, but you also have a need for a transnational reflection to be seen. Okay. Please jump in, everyone. When you've got something, take the place of someone. I wonder what we can do. Those of us that are sitting here, and some others who are not here but who are our colleagues. What can we do? Because in the days when I began to tour, and we're talking many years ago, when I began to tour, it was the first touring that we did before we were known as a company. It was that we had some friends who invited us to their theater, or little street theater festival or whatever, and we invited them to ours. It was, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. We helped each other. Generally, there weren't very much fees being paid, but there was, you had your travel and your food, and you got the opportunity to move. But you moved because it was a give and take. It was a shared responsibility. This is very complicated, and also very much not necessarily built on the value or the quality of the work, but built on friendship. But what can we do in order to make our work more mobile, and at the same time not make it dependent on that there's a lot of extra touring money, because it's going to take a long time before our advocacy for more touring money comes up. Is there anything, does anyone have any ideas about how we can help each other move? Because it sounded to me what you were saying about Bunker. I remember Bunker was a place that throughout the year would be presenting different works. And now it's only the festival.
No, we do present all around the year, but because the way we are financed and the way things are, we are presenting the most of the local work of the people who create in Slovenia, more specifically in Ljubljana. During the year, we have the international program that comes in through collaborating with different festivals. City of Women, Co-Festival, we are involved in the music platform, and so many different things, and then Mladi Levi that gives the international dimension. But the problem is, if we would want to be one of the, when we got Elektrana, we had this idea, oh great, we are one of the spots, we are like Trafo. We're going to be here on the way, when people are going to tour, they're going to stop here in Slovenia, and we're going to play for 5-6 days, blah, blah. This dream was over. The first funding we got, the first information, when we realized how much money we have, we cannot be. So once, when you decide to do it concentrated in 1 week, at the end of August, you put all your resources together, and you do it. So unfortunately, we for us, it would be great to work with Trafo, and we tried many times already, and it's like, okay, we have company here that's on Mladi Levi. The end of August, maybe they can go to Trafo, but it's like a week difference because they didn't start the season yet. So is this, you try, but it's not. So Bunker is, unfortunately, Elektrana is not one of those venues who can you could, if a proposition comes and we have space, then Bunker has no means to, we can give in nature what we have. We can give the space, the promotion that we usually do, all the technical help, but we cannot invest any money. And this is a problem.
As a man of resistance, this is not about Bunker or whatever, but as a man of resistance, this disturbs me. Because it means that our cultural political policymakers have succeeded in exactly what they wanted to do. Keep us in our place. By underfinancing us, they say to us, and therefore, you are not mobile. Stay where you are. Stay in your hometown. Don't try to get outside. Don't try to think you're bigger than you are. And we're allowing ourselves to be limited by the powers that give out money. Now, my question is still back to the beginning. Is there anything we can do to go around this obstacle? One thing we must advocate, of course, more money for international work of all kinds. We should be doing this in all of our countries. The reality is, it's going backwards, not forwards. In every country that I work in, there's less money for international presentation, or they put all the money into some big festivals. So let us try to find a way, what can we do to better? Ishtok, please.
I just wanted to jump in on this. First, what Mojca said, I think there is also a difference between touring on a festival, in festivals, and touring just like touring, without having this certain context or frame of festival, which also depends on organization and its possibilities of venues and financing, and having a whole year program and being able to, having guests all year round or just this specific week of the year. So that's also something that we have to be aware that it's a big difference, and not everybody is made for everything. Yeah, there are organizations that do, for example, my organization is only doing really the festival, and this is what we can do. We cannot offer, whole year-round tours for our guests. On the other hand, what I'm very perplexed about, and this is for quite some time since I was also involved with Nomad at some point, and we cross each other's paths every now and then. I'm very perplexed by how close, for example, Rijeka and Ljubljana are, or Zagreb, Ljubljana, or I don't know, even maybe Sarajevo. I don't know if anybody's here from Bosnia, or Belgrade, Novi Sad, Zagreb. These are really actually short distances. It's not very far, and yet we never meet. We never see each other. Nobody from Slovenia comes to Rijeka to watch a show. Nobody from Rijeka goes to Ljubljana to watch a show. I don't know if, It's very, now we are European capital, so you have to come. Yeah. Okay, but I mean, it's not really a practice that we, you know, we are not practicing this, you know, coming to each other's, visiting each other's places. And this maybe we can change this somehow. I don't know how, but I mean, instead of maybe orientating ourselves to, you know, getting into the big guys league, you know, getting into the Brussels, getting into the Paris or Grenoble or Lyon, or I don't know where is the centers, the big centers of gravity for contemporary dance are, maybe, or Berlin, maybe from, you know, going there, yeah, maybe we should really keep it in our region for the starters, because as I see it, even inside of our own countries we have difficulties touring. So we haven't even figured out yet how to tour inside our own countries effectively, yet alone how to do it in the region or internationally. Yeah, except few memorable, you know, who did it, and maybe we can learn something from them. But I don't know, maybe that's somehow the way to go. I don't know, because I don't know anybody. I don't know from Novi Sad. I've been in Novi Sad 1 year ago, and I haven't met anybody from the dance, which is crazy. And I asked people around, and nobody knew, and nobody could point me somewhere. So it's difficult, no? It's strange. Yeah. Oh.
They have a very good scene. I'm from Belgrade, but they have
But yeah, I just
Yeah, I have a feeling that the cards were dealt a long time ago. And we are playing the game that we know that we will never get good cards. Because we are sitting behind the table, but other guys are playing. I'm talking now about the Iron Curtain. I'm talking about the countries which had the communism still on the full power when the democratic processes and contemporary arts flourished, institutions were built, networks were made. We were still in a very kind of total marginal position. Do you know it? Petov Charnok, I know when I performed there in the 70s or 80s, I know. It was a fight with, like Don Quixote, you know, with wind. So we are not in the same position, but therefore also our culture, politics are, I think, way behind the awareness, everything what goes along with this, and therefore we just have to be realistic to know how much we can count on them, you know. I mean, we are totally at the moment totally depressed situation because the government changed, and we just again realize that nothing is changing on better. Everything, whatever government change is the same. So we can't help a lot of them. So self-organization, I think it's absolutely important. And what is also, I think, incredibly important to keep this integration in European processes, to keep running across borders, to keep applying for Creative Europe, for platforms, for projects. I think this is incredibly important because I'm really afraid of this kind of nationalistic closing of the border tendencies. And we are talking now about the things that a year ago you can hear it only here and there. Now the language becomes more and more obvious and more strong. You can feel it and rough, and it's more and more accepted. I'm really afraid if the young generation started to accept these kind of things, then I'm afraid of that. Anyway, so I think from that perspective, the national cocks are ready to go for the soup, you know. So I think we have to think not nationally anymore. I think internationalism was good. It's still there, but I think my feeling is that future is in regional collaboration. Not only in the regional because it's close and we can manage this within 1 hour or 2 hours by train or 3 hours by train, and Jerome Bell will not have a problem to go from one partner to the other, but also the size of the production, of the venues. So the network that I mentioned before, the Pan-Adria network, not only produces one work or would like to produce more works, we are also collaborating. So if I bring work to Španski Borci Theater, I presented also in Nova Gorica National Theatre. I presented in Maribor. I presented in Zagreb, Rijeka. Now 2 festivals joined. One in Svet Vincenat in Croatia, one in Gorica, which will be the first time in October. So we have 7 partners already. More or less the same size. So I think this is important, that we have some kind of whole year possibility of sharing the works, and also festivals can join with their dates. But just one more thing, which I think is very important, that we are that we are not trying to work with the partner that is going to eat each other. So not being small and trying, as Zvonko said, who said before, not trying to work with totally, I think Zvonko, it was you, no? To work with Sky Theater if that's going to eat all your resources or burn out your staff or whatever. No? So I guess that's the future, the realistic communication within the partners and strengthen the relations.
I would like to add that maybe you heard about Teatroscope. It's in the hand of the French. But whenever I talk to them, I said, we don't need French system. We would like, let's say, European system, and I'm trying to throw in, let's say, we would like to invite these companies, not only the French ones, and to make it much broader. So I guess it's very important to map up the region. And if we are more in this basket, it means much easier to find partners. That's one thing, for international and local too. Because, for example, we have 300 seats, we have a certain image in Budapest, so I cannot work against the image, because it's very important for me to stay on the same track, because we, for example, in Budapest, where our repertory CSS systems, our numbers, our visitors' numbers, all the time compared to the repertory system, so it's very crazy, the system, what we have there. But I wanted to talk about much more about the West still, which what you mentioned. There's one which is very new for me, the brain drain, which is getting more and more obvious. But the other one is that the presenters with whom we started to work, in the 80s and 90s, they're going out. And the young generation is different, because who started in the 80s and 90s and early 2000, still there was a vision, the unification of Europe. And 2004, it's over. And then the younger generation, I would say that not everybody, but many of them really don't take care about it. They just want to travel to Brazil, to whatever, because that's very fashionable and so on and so on.
Not anymore.
And I don't know what's the mission. So that kind of mission is gone. And it's for me, it's much more, they want to, let's say, be very strong and be in the competition, because there's a certain competition. So this is a more egoistic world than we had before, and that's the case. That's the situation. It won't be changed. What we can do, for example, to talk about, for me, it's very important to talk with them. What does it mean, diversity, for them? Because they use this notion, diversity. But this way, they close down for many cases, not all the time. But very often I feel that blackout, that's all.
Thank you. We're coming towards the end of this session. So anyone who has something to say, please drop in. Please. I just have 2 comments here that I would like to, Ishtok and Georgi, what you were saying. One is your Pan-Adria network. Would you think that it's more valuable to have more members to join you so that the Pan-Adria network gets bigger? Or would you think it's better that there would be several new networks similar, but that is it better multiple networks in small scale, or is it better for us to build a bigger and bigger and more powerful network?
I think more networks, absolutely, because what is important, what I realized now in the second year, that we have to learn about the communication between us, about the real possibilities, about trust, about not having somebody fall out of the principle, so that that we can keep going, and to find it in a smaller, I mean, at now 5, 7, we feel comfortable. Maybe we can go up to 10, and if we see that it works well, third and fourth year, then we would go to Creative Europe, then we would apply for international funds. At the moment, we will still work with our resources. And I think that's the way. When we feel confident, we can go bigger. But still, I think we'll be very careful with bringing new people.
I would tend to agree with you, and if you look at it from a perspective of resistance, someone said to me earlier today that probably one of our themes should have been resistance. I'm not quite sure what that means, but if we look at it from resistance, a guerrilla army doesn't try to gather all of its soldiers in one place and then make one big battle, because if you lose it, you're dead, and if you win it, you're just an imperialist. The most effective resistance in a very difficult time, and I think all of us have agreed that the times we are living in, the economic system we are living in, it's very difficult. We need small, flexible units that can move quickly and adapt quickly. We need to be in coordination with one another, so that Pan-Adria might be in connection with B and C and D and E. We need to coordinate, but the actual circuit work of touring or co-production should be done in small units which can quickly adapt one another. That's my feeling. I know there was someone else that wanted to speak. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Chizu. I think I'm going to talk from a perspective from an independent artist, but I need to go back to your previous question about friendship. But I think it's pretty much connected to this point of resistance also. And actually, to try to explain my point clearly, I did a scheme here, because I would call not friendship. Of course, you can like be friends with your people that you work with, but I would say from the perspective of affection, so network of affection, and it is related to a mutual respect for sure, but it's also, I would say, appreciation for diversity, to acknowledge that the amplitude of multiplicities can grow ideas, perspectives, and values. And it's my first time in Slovenia. We came here to attend the festival, and I'm just into a very interesting discussion and getting to know a very particular reality that I wasn't aware about until now. I'm Brazilian, I live in Berlin, but yeah, from this perspective of the affection, I think it's something that I have been moving through, this wave of affection, and it has to do also with similar struggles. It is not about what I like, but what I want to change. So it has to do with this political position. But it's more than political, I would say, something that moves you, like in and out. And what else I put here? Overcome social issues, injustice, social, racial, also territory-based, because I see that this matter of borders, and it has become more and more tense, and there is this tension, and there is this fear, there is the constant fear of the stranger or whatever comes from outside, and I think art is really the place to overcome this fear. It's really a place that you can meet and encounter people in a real and honest place of exchange. And I also would like to bring an example, because I also want to just to provoke it. We were watching like a reportage about these guys promoting something about Pinky Money. It's an initiative from Johannesburg, isn't it? And they are promoting the queer scene through parties. They are doing parties, so they are making money, but they try to direct it to the specific people related to their own community. So this, there is one aspect, it's like prioritizing your community, looking at, but also there is the thing that you create a bubble, that can be also like a diversity in this process. And the other one is that you don't change the system, you just collaborate with it. You just implement, like using Pinky Money is also money. So, yeah, thank you.
I would like to reflect the circuits question. So for example, if I want to invite certain companies, then I send it to those who are interested in, maybe in collaboration. But number one, they got very late their budget. Number two, there are some institutions, for example, like Chankari of Dome, they have a budget. Of course, they can plan very much ahead. So that's another circuit, you know. So it means if I cannot imagine at the moment circuits at all. I guess that would be important to make a kind of forum where you can throw, I would like this company, a Serbian company, Romanian or whatever, so British and so on, who are interested in, and somehow through the practice, along the practice, I guess we will identify how can we work with whom. For example, I do that. I will like invite a certain company and somebody says, I would like this company too, but later. I have that kind of freedom if I get this sign early, okay, I put it there and I put there. So, and I communicate with Bratislava Festival. So whom would you like to invite? I can imagine this, or I talk to Sofia. With Sofia, I collaborate more and more, for example. So I guess it's a kind of mutual understanding. So I know what is her position. So I know that. I make that an offer. So if I know at very small venue, I want to invite a small company, then okay, I call them. So I would invite, would you be interested? In that case, I do it in November, you know? So I guess that's important. Those who are, let's say, have more money or very stable, they can be an initiator of the region. So we have a very important role to do it, or a festival, which is, let's say, more or less stable. So I guess that's important to understand, and to understand the limit our possibilities, which means at the same time responsibility.
Eva. 1, 2, 3, 1. To this, I would like to share, to add that maybe the other step is also stronger collaboration and sharing of resources between the festival. Because if 3-4 festival comes together, then we can organize much easier touring. Then I'm sorry again that I will go to this example with Jerome Bell, but it came in the last moment because we invite him. Yes, and he was, no, we need more festivals or partners on the way. So if we know this at least 1 year in advance, then we'll be able to do it. And of course, I would like to do it for regional performances. So this is another direction that we can look for this kind of collaborations, and maybe we can, thinking regionally, maybe again we have to come back to this very idealistic idea that it stays behind of a Balkan dance platform. Right now, of course, we can go for something like a regional dance platform, because it's a kind of good possibilities to present performances from the region and really to find partners. So maybe again it's time to think for this kind of platforms. Yeah.
I think we've come to the end here. Just in terms of timing, your bus will be leaving in a few minutes and you should have time to say hello. I just want to say one thing, that I think that the attitude that Georgi just showed us is one of the changes in attitude that needs to take place. Festivals and even large-scale venues are often run by artistic directors who have great egos. And the one thing they don't want to do is to present things that other great egos have presented. Meaning that the idea of building up a circuit is very difficult. So you have to be as humble as this guy is, and I know him for many years now, but that you have to be more interested in the artist and the audience than you are in your own reputation. And this is easy for the small, low-budget festivals that are usually done with passion and things. But as soon as you start to have some kind of access to resources, etc., then you want to buy in the thing which is unique. You want to be seen as unique. And it's very difficult to get that kind of shared values with 5, 6 different venues and or festivals who say the most important is the value and the audience. The audience in Bulgaria doesn't care if it's been shown in Budapest the week before. It makes no difference whatsoever. It's only you and him and about 5 of us who say, oh, they're doing the same thing that Georgi does. So, but no one else thinks that way. So we have to kind of also eliminate a bit of the ego if we want this. I think we came to not any conclusions, but what we definitely could see was that there is an advantage in building from small consortiums in units, and secondly, working on the regional cooperation, because this regional cooperation makes a quick access to a touring circuit that's not talking about flying away or big expensive costs, in the worst case climbing into a bus and driving for a few hours because the train systems are not functioning properly. But is there anyone else who would like to say one last thing before we move on? Okay. Natasha, do you want to say anything about this wrap-up idea, or shall we just carry on? Okay. Okay. Okay, the bus is leaving in about 5 to 10 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to say anything about this format or about what we can do to improve tomorrow? If you don't want to say it now, but you can talk to Giga or to me or to Natasha or to Nika and tell us if you think that there's something we could do to improve this tomorrow, so that we have to carry on the conversation. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you.